Welcome. This is Marianne Cusell from the Emotional Fitness Channel, and today I've got a very special guest with me, Bob Frank, who's a two times great-selling author for the Third Eye trilogy, and recently The Cloud, which is all about a fictional journey into the other side, past realms and past lives and so forth. So today I thought, what will you get out of this video? This is for people, it's perfect for you if you've had those questions in mind about, why is it I am the way I am, that I can't seem to progress in this life, or why do I feel stuck in certain situations? Perhaps you're somebody who's afraid of heights, or you're afraid of water, or you keep creating the same conflict in your life, and it's really, you're wishing you could create something different. Or maybe you're one of those people who struggle with finances, and or relationships where you can't seem to find that love of your life. So we've got some very special insights here for you about the perception of the world and where it all comes from that may really surprise you and spin you out. So welcome, Bob Frank. How are you?
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Good, good, good. Now my question is, Bob is also a past life regressionist, and he was an engineer by trade in the military for many, many years in the States. And then he became the president of Near-Death Experience. So he's worked with hundreds and thousands of people gathering data, and has witnessed data from universities and all sorts of things where he can see the pattern of perception and how we play it out in this life. So I want to ask you, Bob, how does past lives affect us, and how do you know that there are past lives?
Okay, I got into this area after being a long time hardcore atheist. So it was, and the engineering component brought me into this by doing research on empirical data, on studies, on scientific information about the topic of reincarnation, or as I like to just refer to it as incarnation. Several universities have done studies on thousands and thousands of cases of reincarnation, and many of the things that they found is that experiences from those previous lives came forward into the current life. In many cases, the University of Virginia proved like 1,000 cases of physical things that occurred in those previous lives came forward, not just psychological, but physical came forward into the current lives of the body. So the soul itself is affecting the physical body. So it's a very interesting topic that I came to through research, and it really changed my whole outlook about reality and everything around us. So as I was really doing the research for the novels on reincarnation, I began to see through my studies is that your current life has a stage set by previous lives, and things carry forward through the soul. So when you are given challenges, because this is what I found in the near-death studies organization, the International Association Near-Death Studies, is that everyone in your soul, in your life, you've got some kind of a charter or some kind of a challenge, or you've got something you've got to get done, or you're going to be given some really difficult situations you need to confront. Many of those are coming from this previous lives that you have experienced in the past, from different perspectives. As the sort of the Hindu Indian culture said, you've got karma. Karma comes out. You do something to someone, well, it's not necessarily that you may be doing it back to them, but it's if you've done something that hurt someone, you may have to actually experience that same pain so that your soul inside understands what it was that you did to someone else in that previous life. So there's a lot of things come forward. Yes.
Yeah. And that's all about elevating. Like I always say to people, if somebody posted something on Facebook the other day about this coronavirus and about how, the human facts that people need to be just human to understand we're all scared, we're all of these things and blah, 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 blah. And I said, as a rebuttal, I said, do you know what would please me? If everybody recognized they were a soul in a physical body, not a human, and they just got on with doing their purpose. And of course, not many people understand that sort of depth of why we're here. And secondly, they don't understand their purpose. But I feel that, you know, I coach so many people through this, doing quantum healings, and I go straight into the past life, and I'll always find some trauma, energetically, physically, spiritually, emotionally, sexually, financially, that they're playing out somehow in this life. And it's just fascinating to me, because it is got a lot to do with like generational trauma. It could be past life trauma, as we discussed before. It could be your current belief system due to your the trauma that you suffered in this, maybe your childhood, or the indoctrination of your parents. But there's so much evidence. That's why I love talking to you, Bob. Even the Dalai Lama gets chosen by all of these things put out on a table, his pair of glasses, his scarf that he wears, and things like that. And little children, the last Dalai Lama was chosen like that. I saw it. The Dalai Lama or potential Dalai Lama gets brought into the room, and he has to pick something like 8 items to know that he had those in a past life, you know. So or how he does. I can't remember exactly how it plays out, but it's just fascinating. So and I also know in the birth date, I can see the numbers in a past life, whether it's got a karmic number, how that plays out. So if you were a person who controlled a group, a community, a tribe, a colony, a emperor, if you were an emperor or something like that, and you had no connection to people and things like that, or you harmed groups of people, then you can say it's karma, or you can say it's what you need to do in this life to elevate to a higher frequency of your soul evolution. Because I understand we don't always keep coming back. We come back, and then once we've completed a certain level, we go into, people are going to think we're completely mental saying this. We go into a higher level of consciousness, a higher realm, and maybe even become an angel. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's what my research has shown, is that your soul goes through a progression, and it's growing. It's growing. It's like school. It's like our bodies. It's just a school project. So we come into this project, and we're learning things in this particular project that we're in. And over time, that soul learns the things that you need to learn. And you don't have to experience that thing in a future life if you learn it. Things that you cannot in this other realm where we reside when we're not in a physical existence. In that realm, they cannot experience the things that we can experience when you're actually incarnated in the physical realm. Things like jealousy, things like guilt, things like hatred, greed. These are all emotions and things that we experience. Hunger. And so there's things like this that we're experience here. And when you're challenged with these, I see probably the best way to do it is embrace it. Embrace the pain you've got. Embrace the challenge that you've got, so that you can learn from it and experience from it. I see that right now. So many people are torn with this Corona, COVID. The world is coming to an end. No, embrace it. Embrace it. And I'm not going to say enjoy it, but go along with it and learn from it. Experience it like it's a challenge. So just go with the flow. It will be past. It will go on, and you'll move on.
Yeah, like there's this amazing analogy I give to it in my research I've been doing, and I said this from the day one that Corona hit. If everyone wasn't afraid of dying, we've sort of sterilized ourselves from this fear of dying. If everyone wasn't afraid of dying, then there wouldn't be a problem. Because
I think you hit the point
yeah,
right
because
on the
there's
nose.
so many people that are terrified of dying. I remember saying to my spiritual teacher when I was I remember I was 30, so a long time ago. And I said to her, do you know, I really have no attachment to Earth. She said, fantastic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I think a lot of people are afraid to leave their children, or they're afraid to, you know, take that last breath or whatever, because they haven't done, they don't have a daily practice, or they don't have an altar, they don't connect to divine intelligence, which I call it. Whatever it is, if they're living in the egoic system, which is the lower form of the matrix. Oh my God, Bob, I've got to tell you about this. This friend of mine sent me a link. He said, Marianne, you've got to watch this. And the funny thing is, what a great guy. I met him. He was an Uber driver. And we just clicked in the Uber, and it was like we were talking about other realms and all sorts. It was fantastic. But he sent me this link. And I've never seen such higher mind stuff on Netflix. It's a cartoon called The Midnight Gospel. And this guy, it's all in cartoon, and he flicks through the map, says hello to his computer in the morning, says, where do you want to go today? And he goes, I'll go to Earth. And he goes, nah, that's got zombies today. Yeah, no, I want to go down and see what's happening. But the dialogue is all about extreme higher consciousness stuff, and I thought, wow, this is fantastic. It's getting on mainstream, and it's going to connect to people. Would listen to it and go, what the, you know? But if you can listen to it and smile like me, then you're operating at that level. And that's not saying anyone's better than anybody else. Mm-hmm. It's saying due to past circumstances and that past life, why you're here. Astrologers have said to me time and time again that my past life stuff has, and I've seen it. I've done a past life regression with you, where I've done a couple with you actually, where I've been in a high situation in that priesthood stuff, and I've come here to let go and just be of service without that sort of control and all of that sort of stuff. So there's all sorts of stuff we can learn, and I just feel that if people understood there's other worlds, times and dimensions that they've lived before, and there's simultaneously in lives going on, you know, then even this life would be more exciting, don't you think?
Yeah, I actually I agree with you 100%. I've seen this with the thousands of near-death experiences that I've dealt with in the last 8-10 years, is that they've given up the fear of death so that they can enjoy life, because they have died and they've passed and they've gone to this other place, and they've seen the beauty of it. They've seen the fantastic feelings that they've had there, and they look back and many of them say, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back there because I like it here so much. But they either come back or get sent back, and then they suddenly see that there's nothing to fear from death. We're resident in these bodies for a particular period of time to do certain things. Then we'll pass on. Everybody's going to die. You pass on, and then you'll get a chance to come back.
Yeah.
I see the same thing from the inductions on past life regression. Exact same things.
So what would be one of the most common, besides everyone's connected to the other side through university studies, all your data, so we know there's other times, space and realities. I do quantum healings and take people back and clean up all that stuff that they're still hanging on to, because we have cell memory, we have energetic memory, we have generational memory. We've got it all in our DNA. But that moment we came, when the umbilical cord was cut, we're set free and we forget why we came. Because if we know why we came, I think it's a question a lot of people struggle with. Well, if it was a past life, why can't I remember? Because if we know why we came, what would be the point of being? There would be no point in coming back to see if we can, when those scenes, as you say, or those experiences or those events are put in front of us, to say, well, how are we going to cope this time? I remember one video we did a while ago. You said to me, I think it was the most common thing that you noticed after interviewing near-death experience people is they all agreed they were here to see how they would cope with this life, or whether they'd fulfill their purpose or whatever. Explain that.
Exactly. And not only is it from that standpoint, that probably one of the greatest challenges that we've got in these lives that we live is just trying to figure out what it is I'm here for. And once you figure it out, then you can set your target on it and go for it. Otherwise, you just kind of roam around the life that you live, and just, well, what am I supposed to be doing? What do I really do? Just living, raising family, and doing all these things.
And it's not about, this is where the Emotional Fitness channel comes in, because it's not about, I have to go and, buy that land and do that thing. It's nothing to do with the material world. It's all to do with the energetic world, emotionally. So, as you say, jealousy, greed, overcoming these filters of just self-deception that we're operating through. And I can prove this time and time again, because every time I take someone back, and you would have experienced, because you're a past life regressionist, you would have had the same experience where they can almost see the play that's coming out, like, oh my God, I killed all those people, or I was, doing this or doing that. When we come back through in this life, it's how are you going to empower yourself if you were the one that disempowered people, or you were the one that was so disempowered in another life. How are you going to empower yourself in this life? How are you going to release codependency in this life? I think that's a really big one for a lot of people. How are you going to take care of yourself in it, financially or whatever, if you were the one who took from everybody else? How are you going to overcome the fear of failure, which is a big ego one that a lot of people have come here to overcome? What do you need to do? Is it directing your energy on changing your energetic perception of the world and recognizing, well, I don't give a shit what anyone thinks about me, it's what I think about me? And to realize in quantum physics, nothing comes from out there, it comes from in here. And I think that if people got it emotionally from that viewpoint, we wouldn't have so many people struggling with addiction. If I knew that years ago, I wouldn't have gone through years of addiction, suffering. It's not a planet of suffering. It's a planet of evolution.
Yes, it's not a place where you're here to just suffer. You're here to experience, to learn, and to grow.
Yes.
That's what we're here for.
And you only suffer if you're in resistance.
Yes. And a lot of things that happen to us in our lives, we say, oh my goodness, I take a parent whose child dies as a baby, as a young little child. Oh, how can this happen? How can this? And then, and from what I've seen from the interview process and I will use the term, the empirical data, is that many times when you see little children who die, it's the experience of that short little life was not for them. They were only experiencing that traumatic event in that young little life because the mother or the father or the siblings were the ones to experience the trauma and then deal with that trauma in their lives. Once they understand that, okay, the death of this young 3-year-old child was really meant for these other people to experience it. not for them.
Yes, and that could have been a thing like, are they there to overcome, to grow through forgiveness? Are they there to overcome grief? Are they there to, whatever the thing is, that's really valuable. And I think that, if people just woke up to the fact or appreciated that suffering, we all experience different emotional states, hanging on, using addiction to reach for relief. I've done it all. And what changed for me is really committing to a daily practice to wake up and do the work to elevate every day. And I know categorically that I will fulfill my purpose. And my purpose from a soul viewpoint is that liberation.
Yeah. And I think when people in their lives go through these issues, because we all go through different kinds of issues throughout our lives, it should never really get to the point where, I'll touch on that hot topic of suicide. Should never get to that point, because from my perspective of what I've seen is from a karmic standpoint, from a past life standpoint, if you are confronted with some particular issue and it pushes you to the point where you commit the suicide, you're going to get a chance to do it again. You get to come back, and that challenge that you had that pushed you over the edge,
and it's the same,
you're going to get that challenge again.
And it's not just suicide. I said it to a client yesterday, who was in a very traumatic experience with a life partner. I said, you got two choices. Mm-hmm. We can overcome this codependency, or you can stand on your own 2 feet, or you can come back and do it all again. She goes, F that. So it was, and the
thing is, when you come back, you're going to get it twice as difficult
as you've got it now. How do you know you're going to get it twice as difficult? That's a bit harsh.
I think the challenge, because now you've had a chance to practice. You've practiced for this life and you didn't deal with it very well. So, okay, you're going to get it again. And, so maybe it's going to be tougher next time.
Okay.
Maybe, who knows?
And do you have a highlight, like one of the most profound experiences that you've had in this life with whether it be research, something you've witnessed, that's so profound that it is unquestionable? Like we can go to people like Alexandra Ebim, who was that surgeon who, it was unquestionable that he, in his book The Proof of Heaven, because of the part in there about his sister, it was unquestionable that there is that realm. For me, it's unquestionable because I work in it all the time, you work in it all the time. But for people that are triggered, I could feel, even speaking these words, how many people were triggered, like your mental. Whether they're still watching or not, they probably clicked off. But for those that are still watching, is there something that comes to your mind, Bob, that, why you continue to do this work and write these amazing books about things like this, the perception of the world people have today? Is there something that you could offer so that people can get out of their own way and connect to their soul journey here on earth and really fulfill their purpose?
I've seen some things, and this comes from my training in this hypnotherapy area, because it wasn't just on past lives. I happened to have focused in that particular narrow area because I needed to do that research for my novels. But in the general hypnotherapy field, where I studied for a couple of years, there's a lot of very common practices that when you induce someone into these states, you take them back, they will see things in the past that's been bothering them in this life. They will see it many times. And this is what my instructors kept saying. Don't feel bad if you can't get your subject, your client, to talk about it. Because if you get them into that deep state, they will probably see what it was that was bothering them. And these are very classic things. Quit smoking. Don't be afraid of heights. Don't be afraid of water. Don't be afraid of snakes or something. There may well have been something in a past life that carried with them that gave them this phobia, whatever this phobia is.
Phobias
So
are a
you
big
induce
one.
them, and once they see it subconsciously, this is without actually seeing it on the surface, without acknowledging it in their mental state, when they see it in the past, that particular phobia goes away.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the solution? How do we get people to see that they have this experience? Well, there's a couple of things they can do. If they're struggling with, they can buy your book to be inspired. I'll put the links below. They can book a quantum healing session if they've got this continuously pattern in this life they can't break out of. And yeah, just, I think that most people that watch this channel are pretty awake people, and the consequences of not doing the work or not actually elevating and recognizing planet Earth as a school for the soul to elevate, right?
Right. Exactly.
So if they don't want to play that game, hey, that's cool. But if you want to have a better life, I mean, I used to suffer from chronic anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, used to do all sorts of crazy drugs and alcohol and things years ago, gamble and all sorts of stuff. And to be in a place that you can, whenever you get triggered, is to have those tools to calm your nervous system. And here's another thing regarding the soul and the body. If people recognize that they're a nervous system and they're on a soul journey, so the souls come in here into a nervous system that they have to somehow negotiate with. And the more that you meditate, the more you come home to yourself and connect to divine intelligence. My God, my life is just so peaceful in comparison. It's incredible. So
and that's what I was just about to say, is that I think if people are struggling with this, if they're not well connected, getting into self-reflection, and much of that is getting to there through meditation. I think meditation is a very good way to do that self-reflection, to look inside. And when you're able to practice in the meditation discipline, when you work with other people, whether it be in the case of a hypnotic regression or an induction or a different type of therapies, you will benefit much, much more, because your mind will let go.
Yes. Get out of the head. Get out of the head. And also,
our minds block everything.
Yeah.
And,
just lastly,
if we can get out of that, we're much better off.
Yes. And if anybody wants to really calm the nervous system on a daily basis, for God's sake, try Qigong. I used to do it 20 years ago. I've just started it again. I started getting all sorts of pain in my body because I've seen so many clients. I wasn't dumping that energy enough. And I started doing Qigong. It's just changed my life again. So That's a really good one. Well, look, thank you, Bob, for joining us again. And I'm going to put this out and see how it can help support people in these times of uncertainty, and just to come home to themselves and realize why they're there. So why they're here. Okay. So thank you so much, my friend. And we'll keep connecting again shortly. Okay.
Okay, great. Okay.
Ciao. Bye.